Hi everyone, today we're gonna do a second video for Superstate Engine, and we're gonna look at how we can do a higher resolution game here. We've started with some pixel art, small pixel art game, which is the default for Superstate Engine. But what if you want to do something bigger? And that's what we're gonna do today. Okay, so I've opened up GameMaker. I've done a new project. I've selected game, blank game, selected the folder where I want my game to be saved, and I'm gonna do a new project with Superstate Engine. So first thing I'm gonna do is go in Tools and import my local package. As of now, Superstate Engine is version 1.05. I'm gonna import this. I import the whole thing, add all, and import. Then I go in my room order here. I move the launcher to be the first room up there, and I want to move the splash, the room splash, just under launcher. Okay, so if I go in my launcher room here, in the instance, I've got only two objects. There's input, which manages the keyboard input, and game. Game manages two things. There's the delta factor, so there's a global speed modif that is basically the delta time implementation, which is gonna adjust the speed of all your objects in game depending on the frame per second value. And there's the cheats, so you can turn off the cheats on or off by changing the value of this macro here. By default it's set to true, but when you compile the game for deployment you want to turn it to false, so the cheats are not available in the final game. By default there's just a few cheats. You can use the F1 key to hide or show the collision layer. There's the R key to restart the game, and 1 and 2 will scale down or scale up the screen size. In the creation code, it's simply room go to next, so it goes to the next room here, which is room splash. I can go in room, delete the room 1. I won't need it. If you see that the character here is kind of floating above the ground and the crates are falling here, it's because you need to go in the game options here and check the collision compatibility mode. If you don't do this, it's going to create issues with Superstate Engine. Once it's checked, everything is super fine. So this is done. Now we're going to go back into the launcher, and the default size here is 432 by 240, which is the size I like when I work with pixel art game, because it's close to the NES resolution but wider to fit more with a 16:9 ratio. But now I want to make a bigger project, so I want to do let's say a 720p resolution, so it's 720p and 1280 for the width. And I changed my launcher because it's the first room that's gonna start the game, so this is gonna define the screen size for the whole project. Next, I'm gonna go in my level template. And this is very important that I set this template correctly for my needs, because I'm going to duplicate it when I want to create new levels later. So what I'm going to do is going to go in viewports and camera. If you don't see it because you've selected a layer here and you don't see these information, you just click on the name here, level template, and it's going to open back the level definition. So open the viewport. I'm gonna use 1280 by 720 again. Port it to the viewport properties, same thing, 1280 to 720. We can see that it's following the camera object, which is perfect. This is done by default by Superstate Engine, but I want the horizontal border to fit my needs too, which is supposed to be half the size because I want the camera to stay in the middle of the screen. So I'm gonna put half of 1280 is gonna be 640, and the vertical border should be 360. Great. I'm gonna go in instance here. Don't need that. I'm gonna erase them all. It's just for example. Next, I'm gonna change the collision size. Now I'm using a tile set of 16 by 16 tiles. I want it to be a bit bigger because my screen is so big. I don't want to spend so much time placing tiles, so I'm gonna use a bigger tile set. Go tile set. I've got 3 tile sets. There's a 16, 32, and 64 by 64 tile set. I'm gonna use the 32 tile set. And since I'm changing the tile set used here, I'm gonna need to go in Superset Engine, Other Objects, Init Others, and I want to change the tile size for 32. And while I'm at it, I'm gonna change the scale too, because I don't want it to be scaled up. When I use pixel art, I often scale up the screen so it's not super tiny on a big screen. But now that I'm using a much higher resolution, I don't want the screen to be scaled up, so I'm just gonna use a scale of 1 here. Then I go back to my level template, and I'm gonna need to modify my screen objects. I'm gonna keep just 1, and I need it to match my viewport like that. And next thing, I'm just gonna redraw some tiles and move that checkpoint here. I forgot a little thing. I'm gonna go back to Init Others, and I need to change my screen width and screen height to fit the screen resolution I've decided to use. So here goes. So I'm just gonna change a few more things in my level template. I want to make it much wider, so I have a space to draw my level. And I'm gonna add another screen, and you can just copy paste it here and change the collisions a bit to accommodate that. Copy pasting the screens like that sometimes create issues. If you do that and you notice that the camera is not centered on the screen, it's not following properly the object, then you might see here in the output attempting to add instance something multiple times to a layer. This is caused by copy pasting the screens. I'm not sure why it does that, but if it happens, just delete the new screen and drop it from the asset browser instead, like that. Resize it normally, and this should fix the problem. This is a Game Maker bug. I don't know why it does that, but if it happens, now you know what you can do. All right, we can see that the camera's behavior is correct. Great. So I've got a basic level set up. Now I'm ready to create my new hero, because I don't want this tiny Jack hero here for that bigger project. So if you go in the graphics package I've included with Superset Engine, there's this body strip here. Just take it and drop it down in Game Maker. I'm gonna do middle center, 8 frames per second. You can see there's a walk, a run, and some jump frames. Next, I'm gonna manage the collision mask. I'm gonna go manual. Okay, let's make it full screen first, just to see how it works. You can see that the sprite is 200 pixels by 200 pixels. Even if the collision mask is covering the whole screen, it's 0 to 199. It's not 200. If it's 200, it's going to be 1 pixel outside of the width. So this is how Game Maker works. It doesn't go up to 200. It stops at 1 pixel less than the actual width. So I need my width here to be closer to the character, and I need both sides to have exactly the same distance from the side. So let's say 60 is good. If I have 60 left, I need to remove 60 from the right, so that's going to be 1 and 39. And I can move this like that. Okay, make sure that it's not modified on the right. So 60 by 139, and top is more arbitrary, and bottom is at the very bottom, so 199. So the character is ready. I can go in my objects, create a new object that I'm gonna call OBuddy. OBuddy is gonna use my sprite sheet buddy here, and it's gonna be a child to the hero object. And lastly, I want to make it persistent. Good. If I go in level launch, I will remove this Jack character here and put my buddy instead. If I test, buddy is in the game, but he's not moving or anything because I haven't coded his behavior yet. So let's just go back a bit and see how it works. In my launcher here, as I said, I've got an input and game, and it simply goes to the next room, which is the splash. The splash here, oh yes, right, I've got to change the splash to fit my screen size. Otherwise it's going to be stretched, and we don't want that. We need the splash screen to be the correct size. So the splash screen here has only one object, control splash. I'm gonna open this here and see what's in it. There's only two things, a step and a draw GUI. In a draw GUI, I simply display press start enter, and in step, when I use input start pressed, it simply launches the level launch room. So I'm changing the start room to be level template, the checkpoint to be 0, and then I create the transition object and sends the game to level launch. If I open level launch, what it does is simply create the camera and the hero object, and then we can see in the creation code that it used the script level launch, which simply sends the game to the room defined in start room. And the room defined in start room, as we've seen, has been defined here in the splash screen. Now we're going to modify our buddy object. So I open my buddy object, make some room, and I'm going to inherit the step event here. I'm ready to code this behavior. So first thing I'm going to do is an if do step block. Do step is to manage the game pausing system. We can see in begin step here, this part, which manages if do step is true or false. So if the object is not active, he is paused himself, or the game is paused, or is in dialogue mode, this do step is going to be false. So the object is not going to run his step event, and is just going to be appearing to be paused in the game. Otherwise, he does his step and runs normally. So inside my do step block, I'm going to have a switch state, and case states dot init with a break, and case states normal break. Init is the default behavior for state objects. Here we can see starting state is going to be states init. We can change it. We can change it in the variable definitions if we want the object to start at the different state, but I like keeping it to init state in case I need to init some variables or have hit create another object or whatever. There's many things you can do in the init before it's sent to its normal behavior. Now I don't have anything to do with it. I'm just going to do become states normal to have it move to his states normal behavior. And this is in this state that I'm gonna code pretty much all his behavior for the sake of this demo. So first thing first, I'm gonna do is movement on the left and right. If input is left, HSP is equal to minus speed. Else if input is right, HSP is equal to speed. Otherwise, HSP is equal to 0. And I'm gonna change his speed here to be a bigger value, because 1 to 3 is not enough. It's for the pixel art demo. I'm gonna do 5. Let's try it. So now he's moving left and right depending on my key inputs. Next thing I'm gonna do is add the jumping behavior, simple jumping behavior. If first I'm gonna check if he's on the ground, if he's blocked down, and input the up. If I'm gonna use the up key, if the up is pressed, I'm gonna modify his vertical speed to be minus jump speed. And again, I'm gonna modify in my variables definitions here the jump speed. I'm gonna make it 10 for now. So now I've got a character that can move left and right and jump. If I press and release, he's jumping the whole way up. So I want to interrupt his jump. To do that, very simple, I'm gonna do if VSP is less than 0 and input up is false. So if I release the up key, VSP is gonna become 0. Up. Now I can interrupt at any moment while it's going up, and he stops going up. Next thing, I'm gonna modify some values here in the Superstate engine, because I think he's kind of floating a bit. He's not going down fast enough for my needs. So I'm gonna go in init others again and change the max V speed. These values are fine for a small screen pixel art game, but I want the gravity to be a bit stronger and the maximum speed to be a bit higher too. So the max VS speed here is the max vertical speed, which means that it can go down at this speed at most. He's gonna cap at 12. He can go faster than that when falling. So let's try it with these values. And now you can see he's falling much faster. The gravity has a lot more weight to it. So now, because of the higher gravity, he's not going so high. He's not jumping as high, so I'm gonna modify my jump speed to be 12 now. Let's see. Yeah, that's good. I like it. So I like the speed he's going, his jumping height is good. That's good. Next thing I have to do is change his animations, because now he only has 1 frame. I want him to be fully animated, so let's do that. I'm gonna go in my body here, inherit the create event, and I'm gonna create some animation presets. And this is gonna be based on my sprite sheet here. So first thing, there's the idle, walking animation, running animation, and some jumping frames. So first thing, I'm gonna do my idle animation. It's just 1 frame, so it's 0. Create anim walk. Walk is gonna start at 1 and go all the way to 10. So it's 1 to 10. Create anim run. It's gonna start after that, so 11 to 18. And then I've got my jump frame. Jump is 19. Jumped up, yeah, 19. Then I have this other animation frame that I'm gonna call jump top, which is gonna be 20. And the last one is when he's falling, so create anim fall 21. So all my presets are created here. Now let's use them in my step even. First thing, before implementing the animations, I'm gonna change its direction. So if HSP is not 0, which means it's moving, I want his horizontal direction to change. And I'm gonna base it on the HSP depending on his speed, so I'm gonna use sine HSP. What does sine do? Sine simply returns either -1 or 1 depending on the value we pass to it. So if HSP is negative, it's gonna return -1, and if HSP is positive, it's gonna return 1. So my H there is here is gonna change and be either -1 or 1 depending on which side I'm going. So I can test that, and that's working. So now I can do my animations. Let's start by the easiest part. If HSP is equal to 0, I'm gonna play idle, else I'm gonna play walk. Again, I'm gonna test, and that's good. Now he's walking. If I'm jumping, he still has that animation going, so now I'm gonna use the jumping animation. So I only want the idle and walk animation to be played when he's blocked down, which means that he's on the ground. So if he's blocked down, I'm gonna do these things here, and if he's not blocked down, then I'm gonna use the different animations for his jumping frames. So if VSP is less than 0, I'm gonna play jump, else I'm gonna play fall. Let's see it in action. Yeah, so that's going somewhere. But I've got this extra jump top frame here that I want to use. So let's say I want the jump frame to be only when this VSP, the vertical speed, is less than -4, and else if the VSP less than 4, it's gonna be jumped up. Jumped up. So if the vertical speed is less than -4, it's going to be jump. If it's between -4 and 4, it's jumped up. And if it's bigger than 4, then it's fall. Let's see it in action. Yes, I like that. Next thing I'm going to do is implement the running animation here. So how I'm going to do it is I'm gonna have a run variable here that I initiate at 1, and this is going to multiply my speed on both sides, either left or right. But if I'm holding the A key, I'm gonna change the run variable to be 1.75. So if I'm holding the A key, it becomes 175 and multiplies the speed, so it goes faster. And for the animation, I'm going back to my block down block here. If HSP is equal to 0, it's idle. That's good. Else, if run is equal to 1, it's going to be walk. Else, it's going to be run. So if run is normal, so it's 1, it's going to walk. Otherwise, it becomes run. So let's see it. Yes. So now I've got my character idle, walking, running, and jumping properly. So that's it. I'm going to stop here today. This is the basis of setting up a new project and starting to code simple behavior for a character. Stay tuned. I'll be doing more video later. Thanks a lot.